Welcome to the So That's Why podcast, where we unpack the science behind everyday questions. I'm Jen.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Jamie. Stepping in front of the camera for the first time, though I've been behind the scenes at Vegetology for a long time. Honestly, I've been listening to these episodes thinking, I have questions too, so here I am.
For anyone wondering, Jamie and Chris go way back. They started Vegetology together. So Chris, you've finally convinced him to join us. Does that mean Matt has taken early retirement?
No, so he's not getting away that easily. So Matt's just sitting this one out. And as Jamie was here and has been hearing us talk about this stuff for months, we thought it's about time he joined in properly so everyone can enjoy those dulcet tones.
I'm just hoping I can keep up with you two.
I have every confidence in you, Jamie. Okay, so today's question is one that might hit close to home for a lot of you. Why do we get hangry? You know that feeling you've missed lunch and you're stuck in a meeting that's running over and suddenly your colleague's perfectly reasonable suggestion makes you want to flip the table.
Oh, I know this one well. It's that moment when someone asks, where do you want to eat? And instead of answering like a normal person, you just glare at them as if you've been personally offended.
Yes, exactly. But did you know that the word hungry plus angry only entered the Oxford English Dictionary in 2018? But I think we can all agree that, this experience is as old as time. Most people just dismiss it as being dramatic or lacking willpower. But there's serious science behind this, Chris, isn't there?
Yeah, there really is. What's happening when you get hangry involves a chain reaction of hormones, brain chemicals, and even changes to how well you can control your own emotions. Your body is essentially sounding an alarm and your brain is scrambling to respond.
And by the end of this episode, you'll understand how a dip in blood sugar hijacks your mood, why a specific brain chemical links hunger directly to aggression, and why some people seem immune while for others, well, the struggle is real.
Plus, we'll settle the question of whether sorry I was just hungry is a legitimate excuse or not.
So, before we get into the mechanisms, let's look at how big a deal this actually is. Because a really interesting study was the first to track hunger in people's real everyday lives, not just in a lab. Over a 21-day period, 64 participants recorded their hunger levels and emotions 5 times a day using a smartphone app.
I mean, well done to them. That would make me angry just tracking that on an app. But, the results were striking of that study. Hunger accounted for 37% of the variation in people's irritability and 34% of the variation in their anger levels. And those effects held up even after accounting for age, sex, BMI and personality traits. So this wasn't just about some people being naturally moody.
Wow, so more than a third of the time someone's being irritable, they might just need a sandwich. That reframes a lot of workplace disagreements.
It really does. And think about it, replying to a difficult email, having a conversation with your partner about, say, finances, navigating rush hour traffic. If your emotional regulation is compromised by something as simple as not eating, those interactions can go sideways pretty quickly.
I've definitely sent emails at 1 p.m. on an empty stomach that I would never have sent at 1:30 after lunch. The difference between a professional response and a passive-aggressive masterpiece is apparently just a bowl of soup.
Absolutely it does. So let's talk about why. And it all starts with blood sugar, or more specifically glucose. Your brain is incredibly fuel hungry. It accounts for about 2 to 3% of your body weight, but uses about 20 to 25% of your total energy.
I mean, that's huge. And unlike your muscles, which can switch to burning fat when glucose runs low, your brain depends entirely on glucose. So when your blood sugar drops, your brain treats it as a genuinely urgent problem.
It does, and your body responds by releasing cortisol and adrenaline from the adrenal glands to mobilise glucose. Now, the problem is that cortisol and adrenaline are also the hormones your body releases during stress. So the chemical for I need food and the signal for I'm under threat are virtually identical.
So my body literally can't tell the difference between there's no food and there's a bear. That seems like a design flaw.
It really does, doesn't it? Well, a really clever study showed this clearly. So when researchers temporarily blocked the brain's ability to use glucose, cortisol levels rose and clear signs of stress emerged. But when an antidepressant was introduced, those negative effects disappeared. showing that the mood changes were being driven through the brain's stress pathways, not simply by a lack of physical energy.
Yeah, and that's a really important distinction. But cortisol's only part of the picture. There's another molecule called neuropeptide Y, or NPY, that's just as important.
Now, this is really interesting, this one. So tell us more about NPY, Chris.
So NPY is one of the most potent appetite-stimulating molecules in the brain. When your brain needs food, neurons release it to drive you to eat. But here's the key. NPY doesn't just make you hungry. Research has shown that the same NPY pathways that drive hunger also increase aggression because they operate through the same circuits, these shared circuits, with serotonin.
Hang on, so hunger and anger are literally using the same wiring in the brain. That's like having your heating and your smoke alarm on the same circuit. Turn one on and the other starts going off.
I mean, that's a great way to put it. The neuropeptides that trigger hunger are the same ones that trigger anger, rage, and impulsive behaviour. But a more recent study confirmed that NPY released during food deprivation directly reduces activity in brain regions that normally suppress aggression.
And as always, there's more, because on top of all of that, there's a third mechanism. When blood glucose is low, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and emotional regulation becomes less active.
Right. And research has shown that even mild glucose reduction specifically decrease prefrontal cortical activity while simultaneously firing up reward and motivation centres. So you're not just more irritable, you're also less able to catch yourself being irritable and dial it back. I mean, that's not good, is it?
Which is why you don't just feel annoyed, you say the annoyed thing out loud before your brain's had a chance to review it. The filter goes offline.
Yeah, precisely. And there's one more factor. Hunger also affects serotonin production. Serotonin depends on the amino acid tryptophan, and its uptake in the brain is influenced by blood glucose. So when you haven't eaten, serotonin synthesis can be impaired, contributing to mood, low mood, and impulsive behaviour.
So when you add it all up, falling blood sugar triggering stress hormones, NPY ramping up hunger and aggression, your prefrontal cortex going quiet, and serotonin dropping, it's a perfect storm, all pushing you towards snapping at someone.
Okay, so the biology is clear. But there's obviously a psychological side to this too, because not everybody reacts the same way when they're hungry. Some people go quiet, others get teary, and some become, let's say, difficult to be around.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And this is where some really important psychology research comes in. A series of experiments showed that becoming hangry isn't just about low blood sugar. It requires biology, your environment, and your own self-awareness all working together.
And their findings were fascinating. So hungry participants were more likely to interpret neutral situations negatively, but only when they'd already been exposed to negative cues. So in positive or neutral environments, hunger alone wasn't enough to trigger hanger.
So, if you're hungry and everything around you is fine, you're probably okay. But if you're hungry and someone cuts you up in traffic or your Wi-Fi drops out, that's when you lose it.
That's it, exactly. And the second finding from that study was equally striking. So in a lab experiment, hungry students who'd been asked to reflect on their emotions beforehand didn't become hangry, even in deliberately frustrating situations. But those who hadn't thought about their feelings reported feeling stressed and hostile.
And the key insight from the researchers was that people don't just become hungry and start lashing out. The hanger happens when you feel the physical discomfort of hunger, but you misread those signals as being about whatever's happening around you, a colleague's comment, a slow queue, a noisy room.
So, hanger is basically a case of mistaken identity. Your body is saying, feed me, and your brain is finding something to be annoyed about.
It's not far off. And the misattribution is key, because if you can recognise that your irritability is coming from hunger rather than from whatever's annoying you, the research shows that you can short circuit the whole process.
Yeah, totally. And there's individual variation too, of course. So research shows that women reported higher tension, anger, and fatigue during hunger. But age, dietary habits, personality traits, they all influence how strongly it affects you. Nobody, though, is completely immune.
And that's actually quite reassuring. It means the colleague who never seems hangry probably just hides it better, or they've got a secret stash of snacks in their desk drawer.
I reckon it's that. So knowing all of this, what can people actually do about it? Because just eat regularly sounds obvious, but life gets in the way, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does. And the type of food matters as much as the timing. So Complex carbohydrates, protein, fibres, they provide sustained energy and keep blood sugar more stable. But if you compare that to sugary snacks, which cause a rapid spike followed by a crash that can leave you feeling worse than before.
So, grabbing a chocolate bar from the vending machine at 3 p.m. might fix the hangover for about 20 minutes before delivering you straight back into it with added guilt.
Pretty much, yeah. Something with protein and fibre, for example, nuts, an apple with peanut butter, some oat cakes, gives you a much steadier release, but honestly, the recognition piece is just as important. Research showed that simply being aware your irritability might stem from hunger was protective, even in frustrating situations.
Yeah, which means if you're feeling irrationally annoyed and you haven't eaten for a while, just pause before you compose that email or have that conversation and just ask yourself, am I actually annoyed or am I just hungry? At that moment of self-awareness can completely change the outcome.
I feel like "have you eaten" should be the first question in every workplace conflict resolution procedure before we discuss the quarterly targets. Has everyone had lunch?
Honestly, though, there's a practical point there. Given that hunger specifically impairs a prefrontal cortex function, scheduling big meetings or difficult conversations after a meal rather than before one is genuinely sensible advice.
Yeah, and it's worth being honest with people too. So with the people around you, you can say, I haven't eaten and I feel like it's affecting my mood. That's so much better than just letting it play out. And most people you find are really understanding when you actually name the problem.
Unless they're also hungry. Then you've got two hangry people trying to be reasonable with each other, which is basically an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object.
True. What is interesting, though, is how hunger connects to other things we talked about on the podcast. So we've talked about cortisol's effects on the brain in our brain fog episode, and here it is again playing a central role.
Yeah, and to repeat myself as always, the other thing that comes into play is sleep, and that ties in to this as well, because poor sleep affects glucose regulation and increases cortisol levels. So if you've had a bad night's sleep and then you skip breakfast, you're stacking that biological deck against yourself.
That basically explains the Monday morning phenomenon, doesn't it? Bad sleep on Sunday night, rush out the door without breakfast, hit traffic, and by the time you arrive at work, you're ready to declare war on the photocopier.
Yeah. And, gut health connects here too. So we know from the brain fog episode that up to 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut. So the quality of what you're eating doesn't just affect blood sugar, it influences the very neurotransmitter that helps keep your mood stable.
Yeah, and as always, this really does illustrate just how interconnected these systems are. So blood sugar, stress hormones, brain chemistry, sleep, gut health, they're all feeding into each other. So hunger isn't a standalone thing. It's a visible symptom of how sensitive our mood is to our basic biological needs.
And when you think about it that way, managing hunger isn't just about avoiding embarrassing outbursts. It's about giving your brain consistent fuel to do its job properly.
So then, why do we get hangry?
So we get hangry because when our blood sugar drops, your body releases stress hormones that prime you for irritability. At the same time, neuropeptide Y fires up both hunger and aggression through shared brain pathways. Your prefrontal cortex goes quiet, your serotonin drops, taking your mood stability with it.
And on top of all of that biology, if you're not aware that hunger is driving those feelings, you'll misattribute them to whatever or whoever happens to be nearby.
So, sorry I was just hungry is actually a scientifically valid explanation, not just an excuse. Next time someone suggests a restaurant and you nearly bite their head off, at least you'll know it's your neuropeptide Y talking, not your true feelings about their taste in food.
So that's why we get hangry. It's not about willpower or personality, it's your brain and body responding to a genuine fuel shortage in ways that are powerful, predictable, and thankfully very manageable. Now you know why. That's it for this week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're unpacking the science behind everyday questions each week. Tell us in the comments what you'd like us to explore. Thanks so much for geeking out with us. But for now, that's it from me.
That's it from me.
And that's it from me.
Bye for now.